Konnichiwa, News Watch Boy Incog. Better than a Raja video. In today's guys, we're back on H4 channel yet again. This one it is called the Untold Agony that came with Emiyas arm. So I believe I forgot which Fate series this is or Fate movie, whatever it was. But yeah, apparently with Shiro, he had got Emiyas arm after he like was defeated or something like that, if I remember correctly, and he gave him the arm. Like his, I think it's the right arm. I might be wrong on that too. But yeah, he gave him his arm, and now I guess we get the backstory of like what happened with like the whole, like what comes with this arm. Obviously, because it's like it's not a good thing that he has the arm. He can't really like live with it, or like I guess well he can fight with it obviously, but he can't like live too long with it because like what's actually going on within the arm itself or something like that. But anyway, we're gonna figure it out right now. So like I say, so let's get right into this. So play.
It's hard to find that person that's willing to put themselves in the line of fire. Throughout the course of Heaven's Field, we find several situations where Shiro, just like his father, is faced with a grand decision. And one of these situations involved his sacrifice that he made to save Ilya. Now, this delves into the more poetic side of fate, since you do have Ilya saved him by the end of the story. But for the time being, Shiro decided to risk it all and make sure that she was okay. The good news is, she was okay. The bad news is, Shiro ended up completely dismembering his arm to deal with the Shadow's energy.
Yeah.
Luckily for him, Gilgamesh isn't the only one who knows how to play doctor. Apparently, Kirei can do some surgeries of his own. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Attaching Archer's
I don't know how
entire
I feel
arm
about
to Shiro's
that.
body through his magecraft, with Archer of course being long gone by the time. But he had complete faith that Shiro would be able to handle it. This was actually the closest thing that we had to a pseudo-servant around those times. You might even say it was the origin. Before we had the shenanigans in Grand Order, Ataraxia, or Fate Extra, there was Shiro obtaining Archer's arm.
Right.
But unlike some of these other people who are just getting these powers handed to them, this arm came at a very high price. By normal standards, this surgery wouldn't even be possible. But since Shiro is Archer, Kirei was able to make this happen in the nick of time. Shout out to the priest. He definitely didn't do this for his own ulterior motives.
Or
now,
did
the
he?
arm itself was way too much for a human body to handle. So to ensure that Shiro's body didn't go into overload, Kirei gave him a shroud that negated its influence over his body.
Huh?
He told Shiro, whatever you do, do not take off the shroud. And guess what Shiro does?
Take it
You
off.
just keep outdoing yourself, my boy. Now, the movies really didn't capture the essence of the trials that he had to go through while he had this arm. You had little scenes here and there and certain highlights that shows some of his trauma, but as usual, the core focus was really in the internal monologue, which we didn't get much of. Just peeling back a layer of this shroud was starting an overload on his body and beginning to short out his magic circuits. When he first gets the arm, he talks about how just the heat is like microscopic bugs eating at his cells on the inside. Kirei told him
That's
whether
disgusting.
he used the arm or not, he's only gonna have 10 years to live. Might as well go out with a bang. If he uses it sooner, like he did, then he's gonna lose it right now. The purpose of the shroud was to stop Archer's arm from activating early, but it could only do so much. When he's walking home, he's getting dizzy, leaning up against the wall trying to catch his breath. He said, "This is crazy. I've had my stomach torn by Berserker, I've had my ribs crushed by Rider, but this makes me anxious on a whole different level because you never know when it's coming. It just happens." You have the time in the yard where he drops down to his knees out of nowhere. This is getting ridiculous. It feels like it's cutting off my circulation. Maybe I should just loosen up the shroud a little bit. And he does this and he can't breathe. He begins to lose consciousness. In the movie, he does this in the tub. At this point, he entertained the idea of getting rid of it altogether. Maybe I should just cut it off.
Wait.
He would rather cut the arm
Wait.
off
Pause.
entirely.
Wait. So okay, so he said he got his ribs crushed, and it was something else that happened to him. His ribs crushed, and it was like something else he said that happened to him. And he said that this is like worse than all that. And he's talking about cutting it off just for the heat and all the other stuff that he's feeling within the arm. But if he takes off that arm, doesn't he die? Right? Doesn't he die if the arm is taken off? I mean, am I wrong? Like, am I missing something? Just make sure. All right, let's get back to it. Play.
Then deal with this pain that's coming with it. And this is what I mean with the adaptation. It didn't make it look easy for him, but it certainly didn't make it look hard either. He had to go to Ren to get her to stitch out the arm's magical energy with a spell just to build up some resistance against it. It was that unbearable. Then he had to go to her and Ilya just to practice the flow of taking this energy into his body. The first time that we see Shiro's skills with this arm in a fight is when he's up against Heracles, where he makes his own version of the Nine Lives Phantasm known as Nine Lives Blade Works, which took a tremendous amount of effort, breaking his bones and then blowing out a part of his brain. Again, the movie did a really good job with what it had, but it was a lot more fluent in the novel. The way the monologue comes out, it just felt better paced. You know, the movie kind of had to speed through it to get to the other parts, but in that moment that he pulled this off, it just felt so epic. You have to remember that this is the first time, at least in this route, that Shiro got his first win after all these years of training, after all these years of diligence.
That's crazy.
You're proud of him in the same way that you see Archer being proud of his ability to overcome in the movie. And at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because you know just him using this type of power is gonna cause all sorts of physical and mental pain. And you know, he just took it to the chin and kept going, as he usually does. He's going through different options in his head. He had 3 seconds to come up with all of this. Okay, I can't use my reality marble. That's not gonna work. Because even though he was getting access to Archer's skills and experience, at times he didn't get all of it. It actually tells us that he failed to read his physical strength, probably because he used it all up when he was running. So when he was finally able to take down Heracles, it wasn't his strength, it was literally just skill and the power to reach that.
That's impressive, just skill.
His body in 8 different locations, surpassing the speed of sound, and then went in for the finishing blow. You have the part in the forest where Kirei is running at nearly 50 kilometers an hour, but Shiro also mentions that he's running at equal speed right behind him, showing us that it wasn't just his mind, but his physical abilities going up as well.
That's
then you have
nutty, man.
He's with Kirei, and he jumped out of the window of the 3rd floor, and he landed dead on his feet. Normally, this would be out of bounds, and Shiro would have no legs. But since Archer's experience
out of bounds, and Shiro have no legs,
jumping out of a 3rd-story window didn't seem that unrealistic. This just goes to show how much influence Archer's instincts are having on his mind. You know, Kirei told Shiro, "You're not me. Why would you even try to make that jump?" But it wasn't Shiro's initiative to try that jump. It was Archer's arm telling his body, hey,
to do it.
Stick that landing.
Yeah.
Because he's used to things like that. So Shiro was a lot more fearless when he went through with it. This isn't 3rd story. So the arm's basically talking to his body and making his body do stuff. We're 20 meters up. It even tells us in a regular house, this will be 8 floors. And Shiro was quick enough to realize if I reinforce my feet before I land, I can soften the jump. And then he pulled it off. No biggie. You have moments like when he created the replica for the gem sword of Zelrech, and he's literally breaking his mental frame just to make this concept come together, to the point where he punched Ilya out of confusion. And this is around the same time that Shiro discovers the foundation about the war, Zelrech, and Justice. In the anime, it just makes it look like Ilya was taking him on a field trip. In reality, he mentioned that his flesh was torn from the projection and how he was thankful to just still have all his limbs. He was trying his best not to let Ilya know how it was weighing down on his mental focus.
So it was like really bad to him in the background.
He had already forgotten that he projected the sword, even though he just didn't. And then of course, you have his fight with Salter. where he tanks Excalibur Morgan, if only for a short amount of time, and projects his own version of Ro-Ias. You gotta think, he was having Archer's temple invade his body so early that it was sprouting his origin in a defective way that was causing his body to attack itself. It's like an autoimmune disease where you have your body attacking itself to get rid of this foreign substance, even though this substance isn't actually there. Well, in Shiro's case, it is actually there, and that would be Archer's arm. So what we see is his body self-destructing,
fighting itself,
protect him from Archer's arm. And unfortunately, he gets the worst end of that spectrum.
Hate to see
it. Feeling this on the inside. And then we get to the ending. Despite everything that's going on, despite
I'm pausing
all
right
the
here.
things he has to push through, he's got to get rid of the Grail too. He's already been losing his memory. You had pieces of his memories lapsing. There was a time where Ren went to the store and he couldn't even remember what happened because it was being filled in with Archer's information. He said it himself. I might go up here and not even remember what I did it for. The way he sees it, he's got nothing else left to lose. You have the normal ending where he thinks back, what can I do? And at the cost of his life, he projects Excalibur and destroys the Grail. That's literally how it ends. He kept his promise on making sure that Sakura was safe, but he wasn't even around to reap the rewards. It was just her. Super unfortunate. Then you have the real ending where, on top of everything that's going on, his mind is deteriorating, his body is malfunctioning, and then he's got this martial artist expert trying to kick his ass, and he's still just through.
I remember watching it.
Swords are firing off into his body. And not just his body, but his brain too. He's getting stabbed in the brain while he's taking external punches from Kirei. And then you have Kirei's body run out of time. This is where Ilya steps in and saves Shiro the same way that he saved her earlier in the story. He still loses his body, but his soul gets put into the puppet. So at least he has something, and it's not just zero. It's just a good concept. I mean, if you think back to the end of UB-Dub, where Gil was trying to pull Shiro into the rift, he was like, I don't think so. I will rip off my entire arm.
Oh yeah, that was crazy with Gil. That was nutty. That was crazy with my boy.
Does throughout the story, and then you go over to the next route, and he actually does lose his arm, paying homage to that same claim. Even though UB-Dub is my favorite route, I've always loved the way that they handled this idea. You know, instead of just banging swords with your future self and getting skills prematurely, you actually see.
Hey, that fight was so lit, dog. Oh my god.
Him, but the cost makes his efforts so much more valuable, which makes me want to root for him even more. There's a reason people love Sparks Liner High so much. We definitely need to do some more exploration of different concepts in the novel. I already have some in mind, but if you guys want to pitch in, feel free. And we're going to get back into that. Follow my Twitter for sneak peeks on the next video. I've been putting those up a lot recently. And jump in the Discord for better updates on the channel.
Alright, so yeah, that's going to be the end of that. The Untold Agony that came with Emiya's arm. The actual backstory of it. Because like you said, the movie didn't really show too much of it. Heaven's Feel. I'm going to do some editing on this because I got a phone call. So I'm going to have to like edit through that. Hopefully I edited it right and it's like on cue. Like I said, I think it was like 8:53 when I paused it, so hopefully I can, do that and get it to where I do, and then boom, and do all that. So I'm gonna edit that right now. It's 3:12 a.m. in the morning, so I just try to edit this right now, so I can try to get this video out probably later on, not tomorrow, but the following day, because my computer, I know it's gonna be like rendering, it's gonna take a little minute. But yeah, so on the road to 2K subscribers, guys. Yeah, I'm out. Hiwa.